Thank you, Mayuri. So, team, before starting off with the session, let's start with the introductions. So, my name is Rohan. I have 7 years of experience within ServiceNow, and within GRC, I have somewhere around 5 years of experience completely in ServiceNow. And I've been working and providing guidance to different clients across APAC region, EMEA region, as well as America region. So that is my introduction. Team, if you can introduce yourself one by one, and then we can start off with the sessions.
Yeah, my name is Gabriel. I'm a GRC analyst. I
Okay.
stay in Dallas, Texas currently, and I think that's
Yeah.
about it. Yeah,
And how much year of experience you have, Gabriel?
about 5 to 7 years.
Okay. Completely in GRC or different tools?
GRC, basically GRC risk assessments and
Mm-hmm.
security awareness training. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I see someone has joined from iPhone 109. So if you can introduce yourself, and then we can start off with the training, the demo session that we have. Mhm. Okay, team. What we'll do is we'll start off with the session. I'm not sure like whether who is iPhone 109, but then we can take introduction data as well. So what I'll do is without wasting any more time, what we'll do is I'll just share my screen. Please let me know once my screen is visible.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay. Yeah. So today's session will be more of a demo session, and what we'll do is we'll just go through what we will cover within ServiceNow IRM and what is the difference between IRM and ServiceNow GRC. So we'll talk about all of these things. So let's start off with the session. So just give me a minute, team. I am not sure what has happened with this presentation. Just give me a minute. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So what we'll do is I'll just open it from here. Yeah. So team, what we will do is today we'll cover what are the different things that we'll cover in this training, what is the agenda of this training, what are the objectives, and what are the different personas who can take this trainings, and what is the outcome that they will get. So if I start with of, let's suppose if someone is a developer or a admin who is working within the GRC space, so they will get to know about ServiceNow and what is the IRM solution within ServiceNow. When I say IRM within ServiceNow, what does it mean is that it means that it is integrated risk management. Now, what is integrated risk management? So integrated risk management has two solutions within the ServiceNow domain. First one is your policy and compliance management. Second one is your risk and advanced risk assessments. Okay. So combining these two things will make your majority of the ServiceNow IRM. There's also another module which is called as audit management. But yeah, audit management is not that, like, what you can say, that developed or that more detailed. So what we'll cover majority is that we'll cover the ServiceNow policy and compliance, and then we'll talk about risk and risk assessments. Now, what? In these two modules, there are a lot of common elements. Okay. One is your control objectives. Second is your controls. Third is your entities and entity types. Fourth is your indicator and indicator types. Then you have your GRC metrics. Then you have issues. Then you have user hierarchy. So these are a lot of common things between policy and compliance and then advanced risk assessment. So that is the reason we call it as integrated risk management, because there are a lot of common elements between policy and compliance and integrated risk management and the advanced risk assessment. So what we do is we use these common elements for your policy compliance as well as your risk management. So that is the reason it is called as integrated risk management. And all these common elements within ServiceNow are stored in different tables of service now. So it doesn't mean that you need to have an integration between all of these things. All of these things are stored within your ServiceNow instances. So that is the reason we call it as integrated risk management, because your policy and compliance talks with your risk management and advanced risk assessments, they also talk with control objectives, then they also talk with your policy and compliance management. We'll see all of these things within ServiceNow, how it can be achieved and how it is being developed. So that is your developers and admin profile. Then if you are a BA, let's suppose if you are a business analyst, okay. So you need to understand what are the capabilities of the ServiceNow tool. Forget about the GRC aspect or the IRM aspect. First thing that you need to know is what is the tool capable of. Let's suppose if you're a business analyst and you are within your uh, client service or a product-based team, right? So if you're a business analyst persona, what you need is you need to understand what is the requirements. If you can't understand the requirements, how can you then take the requirements and then write the business requirement stories or the user stories, right? So what you need is you need to have the understanding of the service now as a tool, and then what are the capabilities within the GRC or the IRM aspect within ServiceNow. So it is very helpful for business analysts as well. Then it is very helpful for project managers and engagement managers as well. Let's suppose if you're currently working within Archer. Archer is again one of the GRC tools. Similarly, SAP GRC is also one of the ERP solution that is there. So let's suppose if you want to switch from your Archer or SAP GRC solution, you need to understand what are the capabilities of ServiceNow GRC. Yeah, what are the capabilities of the IRM process within ServiceNow GRC, and then you can pitch them to a different customers, or then you can also implement it within your own organization. So that is what the agenda is, and these are the profiles that can take this course. Yes, we'll not be doing any kind of like coding or JavaScript coding. We will not do that. We'll be more focused on process oriented and how the solution works within your ServiceNow GRC or ServiceNow IR. So that is what the agenda of this training is. And these are the profiles, be it developer or admin, business analyst, project manager or engagement manager, they can take this training. Okay. Now we'll look at what are the different things that we'll cover in this training. So first off, we'll not directly jump into service now. Okay. We need to understand the basic concepts of GRC. What what is the governance, risk, and compliance component of the GRC. So we'll not directly jump within ServiceNow. We'll understand the basic concepts of GRC, and then what we'll do is we'll jump to the implementation planning. So before learning any kind of skill or let's say ServiceNow GRC, what you need to understand is what are the implementation principles of GRC or IRM within ServiceNow. You need to understand what are your stakeholders. Yeah. If you don't understand what are your stakeholders, then how will you implement this project? Right. So you need to understand the stakeholders. What are the different teams that work within the GRC space? There's a risk management team, there's a compliance team, there's CMDB people involved. Why do we need CMDB? The reason for involving CMDB is that because from those CMDB artifacts, which are basically your configuration items, you create your entities. So that is the reason the CMDB team is also required. Then within ServiceNow, there's something called as a platform team. What is the platform team? The platform team is someone who maintains the platform, what the global scope tables, like the tables which are used across different modules. So the platform team maintains it. So you need to loop in the platform team as well, like if you're using any of the global table. And then there are different stakeholders. There are risk analysts. There's a development team. There's an admin team. Risk analysts are basically the guys who are actually working on the risk management process, and then they'll give you the requirements. Okay, we were working following this process. We want to implement the same process within ServiceNow and take advantage of the different capabilities that is there within ServiceNow. So you have your risk analyst. Uh, there are developers, like developers are someone who are very good with coding, and then they can customize the solution or they can configure different things. So me, I'm more into the development side of things, but then yeah, I also do requirement gathering and all those things. So like I'm more of a techno-functional guy. So that is where my role comes in. So that these are the different stakeholders and different teams that are required for an implementation. So we'll understand in depth like how within ServiceNow you have the roles of these teams also defined. Then we talk about the IRM solution. As I've said, your IRM solution, it consists of three modules, which is your basically policy and compliance management, advanced risk assessment, and audit management. Now, policy and compliance plus your risk management becomes the IRM solution of ServiceNow. Okay. So when I talk about GRC, GRC is an umbrella term and there are 13 to 14 modules within ServiceNow. It includes policy and compliance management, risk management, regulatory change management, audit management, third party risk management, environmental, social, and governance management. Then you have your privacy management. So there are different modules within ServiceNow GRC. And when I talk about IRM, so IRM specifically talks about three modules, which are your policy and compliance, integrated risk management, and audit management. Yeah. So that is what IRM is. Like if you have any confusion, what is GRC and what is IRM? So it is what it is. GRC is more of an umbrella term, somewhere around 13 to 14 modules within ServiceNow. And IRM solution only talks about three modules, which is your audit management, compliance management, policy and compliance management, and advanced risk assessments. So that is what the IRM solution is. Now, so the first topic that we'll take within ServiceNow is your policy and compliance management. In policy and compliance management, we'll talk a, about a lot of common elements that will be used, and this will become more of your foundation. In policy and compliance management, what we do is we talk about policies, policies life cycle. We talk about policy exception, policy acknowledgement. We also talk about your building blocks for GRC, which is your controls and control objectives, entities, entity types, and entity classes. So these are all your common elements, and this becomes your most important part. Policy and compliance management becomes your most important part because in this we cover a lot of common elements. Like as I've said, controls and control objectives, entities, entity types, entity classes. How does an entity framework works within ServiceNow? So we talk about all of these things. Now, the second module that we cover is your risks and your advanced risk assessment. Now, what is risk? Risk is your classic risk management, wherein you don't have any effect based on assessments. But if you look at now, like the solutions for the past 7 to 8 years, people are moving towards the advanced risk assessments, wherein people are creating different types of assessment, inherent assessment, residual assessment, control assessment, all those things. So that is being talked in advanced risk assessment, whereas in classic risk management, your assessments don't play a very important role. They just play a role of like giving the answers to the assessment, but then they don't affect your risk scoring and all those things. It is not a very automated process. But when you talk about advanced risk assessment, based on the answers that you have provided for that assessment, the scoring and the scoring logic, it gets affected. So that is one of the key differences between advanced risk assessment and classic risk management. Then we also have third party risk management. Now, in this third party risk management, we are not only limited to the vendors. We are also talking about third parties. We are also talking about fourth parties. We also talk about the dependencies that these fourth parties have with different companies. So if you look at, let's suppose A is your third party. Okay. I am working in Microsoft and I've hired A company as a third party. Now, this A company may provide this work to, let's say, a separate organization called as B, right? So what will happen for this A company? B becomes your third party, but let's say I'm Google, right? For Google, this B becomes your fourth party. Okay. So the relationship between Google and this A company is of third party, but with B, the relationship of Google is of fourth party, right? And since this A company has provided or has contract with this B company, that is the reason it becomes very important for Google to maintain all the risks that are associated with this B company. So within this third party risk management, we talk about all of these things. We also talk about dependencies, like if there are any dependencies or any contractual obligation with the third party. Yeah. Earlier it was called as vendor risk management, but vendors as only specific are limited to only providing external services. But when we talk about third party, the key difference between third party and vendor is that third parties also include your consultancy solutions, your vendors, every type of thing which is not associate like directly with your company, but then it has been given to a different set of companies for carrying out those tasks. It becomes a third party. For example, let's suppose if you want to deliver your laptops, your organization, they want to deliver a laptops. So what they do is they reach out to different vendors. Now there are a lot of vendors, DTDC, then you have your e-delivery. So all these companies, they become your vendors, right? Now let's suppose if our organization, what they want to do is they want to migrate from SAP Archer uh, to ServiceNow solution. So what they'll do is they'll hire, let's say, any service-based company, be it TCS, Infosys, or let's say Accenture, Cognizant, all these companies, what they become? They become your they provide consultancy services. So what they become is they become your third parties. So that is a very small and a key difference between third parties and your vendors. So we'll cover third party as them. Then we'll also talk about your audit management. Now, what is audit management? So all the things that you have done in risk and policy compliance from a control and control objective perspective, right? Are you doing it correct? And are you dealing with it within the legalities of your company, right? You can make any risk compliant, right? If you want, what you can do is you can take a risk and mitigate it without anyone noticing it, right? Who is going to track that? For that purpose, what we do is we go with audit management. Now, there are two types of audit. One is your internal audit, and the second one is your external audit. Okay. Now, let's take an example. Let's suppose you are a financial firm or a bank who has implemented a lot of controls and who has mitigated a lot of risks, right? But as an organization, I want to understand whether these mitigating practices or compliant practices that I'm following are they within my regularities that I've set up? Are they following the correct rules and regulations which are provided by different frameworks? Different frameworks may be NISP, SOX. So all these are different frameworks, right? So I want to assess that. So what you will do is you'll go with audit management. So that is the reason audit management becomes a very important part of your ServiceNow GRC. Then we'll talk about a lot of ServiceNow platform capabilities. Now, what are the different ServiceNow tools? Within ServiceNow itself, you have a lot of tools called as catalog items. There are a lot of scripting objects that you can take advantage of you developing the solution. So we'll talk about all of these things. What are the different capabilities of ServiceNow platform as a tool? So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the common elements used across different ServiceNow modules, which are your indicators, issues, indicator templates, all of these things. Yeah. So this is a very high level curriculum of what we cover within the ServiceNow GRC training. Okay. Then if we are learning something, we do know like our learning should always be based on the outcomes, what we will achieve, and what we will why are we learning all these things, right? So there has to be a set number of outcomes as well. So by taking this course, what you can do is you can complete a very important certification within the GRC domain, which is called as Certified Implementation Specialist for Risk and Compliance. So this is one of the certifications provided by ServiceNow. If you complete their courses on their site, we'll talk about like how you can complete those sites, those certifications as well. But this course will enable you to take the certifications. You can directly go and you can complete the training session, required mandatory training session within the ServiceNow University, and then you can take the certification. Then you have your third-party risk management certification as well. So what we do is we provide in-depth knowledge about all these two certifications. So you can just directly take that certification by completing like there's a very minimal training option that is there. You just have to complete it, get the voucher, and then you can get certified with these two. But what we do is we provide more in-depth knowledge and more like industry-specific solutions within ServiceNow. So it will fast track your learning and it will fast track your certification journey as well. Now, with the help of this course, you see, it enables you to apply for different positions specific to GRC role. We are not only limiting ourselves to, let's say, policy and compliance or risk management, we also talked about third parties and audit management. So that is the reason, like you can apply to a for any position specific to a GRC role. If you are a developer, let's say, who has good knowledge about JavaScript and he wants to learn about the GRC process, as soon as you complete this training, you are good to go with your GRC journey. Similarly, for business analysts, for engagement managers, for project managers, or project leads, if they want to learn about GRC, so this course enables you to do that. Then, let's suppose if you don't want to apply it anywhere, but then you just want to know the GRC process, so you can have that as well. Like there are a lot of people who just do learnings and then they are very more interested in learning different modules and different tools, be it ServiceNow, SAP, GRC. So it will definitely enhance your GRC knowledge as well. So these are some of the course outcomes that enable you to like take different certifications or just enhance your service knowledge. It's completely up to you. So that is what the course outcome is. Yeah. So before moving on, team, do you have any question? Like any question, I welcome all this and I want it to be more of a two-way conversation rather than I just speaking out and you are just listening in a listening mode. So if you have any questions till now, be it like what how is it helpful for me? I'm working in this domain, but then how the course will be helpful for me. If you have any question related to that, please speak up. Any questions on this? Steve?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your very extreme good introduction. Is there any prerequisite for somebody to be able to follow up this course?
So,
Do I have to have any knowledge of ServiceNow or risk management or basics to be able to follow this course?
okay. So, Azu, can you like tell me what's the kind of experience that you hold within ServiceNow or let's say risk management? Do you have any experience with it?
don't have any experience in risk management. I just
Okay,
have
you have.
peripheral, I just have little understanding on risk management, but I don't have in-depth knowledge.
Okay.
On service now, yes, I'm just trying to understand the modules, and
Mhm.
yes, so I am not equally that strong. So that is basically
Mhm.
why I want knowledge.
Yeah. And what kind of a profile you are like? Are you a developer profile, a business analyst, or a analyst, or like a manager, something like what kind of a profile that you have?
I'm a BA.
Okay. So,
Mhm.
Azu, what you need to understand is that this course is designed from beginner to intermediate level to advanced level. Okay. So even if you are completely new to ServiceNow tool, I, as an educator, will take responsibility of understanding how you can navigate between different tools. What are the prerequisites? When we say prerequisite, yes, what you can do is you can have like a system administrator training, which is like hardly for 7 to 8 hours. But then, yeah, if you don't have it, you don't have to worry about it. We cover those things as well within this training as well, so that at least you are aware about the tool and how you can navigate between different application and modules within ServiceNow itself. So you don't have to worry about like if I'm completely new, will I be able to like navigate, or it will be a different experience like from what we do. So what we do is, what my preference is, we do a lot of demos as well. Yeah. So as soon as we start off with the training, first two lectures will be more of like theoretical or PPT based, but then from the third or fourth lecture, what we do is we directly teach a lot of things on the ServiceNow instance itself.
Okay,
I
thank you.
hope this
So
clears your query. Mhm.
that's fine. Thank you so much for that. So what time actually do you start? Because I was expecting that the lectures were going to start at 7:30 IST, which would have been at like 8 p.m. CST where I am. But
Yeah.
did you change the time just
No. We
for
started at 7:30 itself, Azu. 7:30 IST.
wow. So I missed
Yeah.
almost 1 hour. So how many hours is this
No.
session?
So this will take somewhere around mm, 15 to 16 sessions. So it basically means like 16 to 17 hours.
Okay, so we're going to take about 17 hours
17 hours,
lectures.
yes. Yeah, 17 hours of lectures will be there. Yeah.
17 hours. Okay.
Yeah. And
That's
even if you have missed the starting part, it's just that like we are only discussing the introduction part, what we will be cover, what are the different profiles that we'll cover. So you don't have to worry about like if you have missed the starting part, and always there will be recordings available to you as well. So
oh, the
the
recordings are there. Okay, that sounds good. Okay,
yeah.
that's after this
Yeah.
class, would it be possible for me to have a one-on-one with you?
No, that is something that we not recommend, Azu. It's like
Okay.
more of a training group policy. So we
Okay,
don't
that's okay.
do a
Okay. I'll
one-on-one.
talk to your
Yeah,
coordinator. That's fine.
yeah.
Okay,
So
thank you so much. I appreciate you,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Thank you so much, and thanks for asking questions, team. I want this session to be interactive. So if you have any question or doubt, just hop on to the questions, and I'll be more than happy to help you with that. Now I want to understand, like, is my screen visible, team?
It is very visible.
Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is, so that is what the course outcome was. Now what we'll do is, since this is a demo lecture, what we do is we keep things very light and we just go with some of the basic definitions. What is governance? What is risk? What is compliance? Then here are the core modules. So we'll talk about that as well. Then we talk about the suite solution, how GRC works, and just simple topics that we have covered. So what I'll do is I'll start off with now. What does governance mean? What does risk mean? And what does compliance mean? Okay. So if you look at governance, and if I read out the definition and you also read out with me, is that the system of rules, processes, and controls that guide an organization's direction and decision making. It is the framework that ensures activities align with the organization's objectives, promoting accountability, transparency, and ethical conduct. Essentially, governance is the foundation upon which GRC is built, providing the structure for managing risk and ensuring compliance. Yeah. So if you look at this line, so whenever we talk about governance, the first thing that should come to your mind is framework. What framework? We define a framework wherein we see and we tell our analysts and the guys who will be working on the risk process is that okay, this is the process we are following. These are the rules and regulations that we are following, and you have to make sure within these rules and regulations you manage your risk and make sure that you're compliant. So governance, what it does is it gives you accountability. It gives you transparency. Now, why? What does it mean by accountability? The person who is working on the risk should be accountable for managing that risk. Okay, if a risk is associated with that asset, he needs to understand what are the different rules and regulations for mitigating the risk. Otherwise, what will you do? Like if there's not a framework for managing risk, you can take, let's suppose you can take a number of different approaches which may not be recommended by different frameworks. And what you do is you just try to mitigate those risks, right? So that should not happen. That is the reason you should have a framework, and this framework comes under your governance umbrella. Okay, basically it provides you a structure and a framework for managing risk and ensuring that you are being compliant. So that is what governance is. Now governance can take, an organization for setting up its governance can take different IS codes as their reference, different NIST or SOX guidelines for lining out the governance structure. Completely depends upon the organization. So this is what governance is within the GRC. Now, what are risks? Okay, I'll just read out what's the statement written here. Potential threats or negative impacts that could hinder an organization's ability to achieve its objectives or negatively affects its operations, finances, or reputation. These risks can stem from various sources, including internal weakness, external threats, or non-compliance with regulation. So anything which is not following within your governance umbrella becomes your risk. I, as an employee for a company, if I'm on the verge of leaving that organization, and what I do is I take all the data, all the sensitive data of my company, and sell it to a, let's say, to a different competitive organization. What it becomes for the organization becomes a risk. I become a risk for my organization because I'm about to sell my sensitive data of the organization to a competitive company. So what will happen? I'll become a risk. What I'll do is I'll become non-compliant and I am posing as a risk to the current organization. So that becomes your risk. Any negative impact. And generally within risk, like whenever we talk about risk within the GRC, we are talking about monetary losses. We are talking about a loss of $1 million, $1,000, $100,000, anything. So when we say risk, what we say, this is the amount of money that we may lose. In order to mitigate it, so that is what risk is. Now, in order for me not to lose that money, what I'll do is I'll have to mitigate that risk. Yeah. So that is what risk is. And then there are different components within risk. There's risk appetite. Like what's the maximum loss that I can afford to do? That is what your risk appetite is. Because as an organization, you always have a threat of having risk. There is no organization which can call itself risk free, be it UN, United Nations, be it different organizations, let's say Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, all these different organizations, applications are all, they always come with risk. So every organization should have a GRC process installed within them so that they can mitigate all these things. So that is what risk is. Now, what is compliance? An organization's strategic approach to manage its operation, mitigate potential risk, and adhere to relevant laws, regulations, and standards. It's a framework that integrates these three key areas to ensure organizations achieve its objectives while operating ethically and responsibly. Now, what is the biggest like step that our organization follows. It's that they are operating within the rules and regulation and the land and the laws of the land that they are in. Let's suppose right now I'm in India. So Indian government have a lot of different laws that me as a company has to follow so that I'm operating responsibly and ethically, right? So compliance, what it does, it gives you a framework how you can manage your controls, mitigate your risks, and while doing all this, whether you're operating ethically and responsibly or not. So that is what your compliance framework is. So this is what like a very basic introduction, or I would say like explanation of what GRC process in itself is. It has three components: governance, risk, and compliance. And these are the three definitions that are there for governance, risk, and compliance. Now, let's talk about a more specific to service now. What is this IRM core module? So what I've done is I have divided this GRC learning into two parts. One will be your IRM, yeah, integrated risk management, and your second is your TPRM, which is your third party risk management. Yeah, so you will learn these two different modules. Now, this is your first module that you learn, policy and compliance management, and this comes under your IRM bucket. Okay, risk management also comes under your IRM bucket. Third party risk management comes under your TPRM bucket, and your audit management again comes into your IRM bucket. And then there are some optional modules called as operational risk, business continuity, etc. But majorly we'll focus on these four modules. And to clear out your confusion, people within ServiceNow call call it as ServiceNow GRC, and sometimes they call it as ServiceNow IRM as well. Okay, it's a very interchangeable term that we use within the ServiceNow framework. Okay, some people call risk compliance and all these things as ServiceNow GRC, and some people call it as IRM because it is an integrated solution. So people confuse it with GRC and IRM. So as you are also learning it, you may refer to it ServiceNow GRC, or you may also refer it to as ServiceNow IRM, because all the different solutions within ServiceNow, they interact with each other. Okay, TPRM interacts with risk management. TPRM also interacts with policy and compliance management. So that is the reason everything is integrated. So we call it as like ServiceNow solution of GRC is called as IRM. Okay. So if someone says that I am a ServiceNow GRC expert, they are basically saying that I am a ServiceNow IRM expert. And if someone says that they are ServiceNow IRM expert, so you just have to understand they're talking about ServiceNow GRC and they are a ServiceNow GRC expert. Okay. So that is what the core difference is. It's just an interchangeable term which people use according to their convenience and usage. So that is what ServiceNow GRC and IRM is. And these are the four modules that will play a key role in this journey. And these are your founding blocks of GRC. There are somewhere around 13 to 14 modules, which is humanly impossible to learn in 17 to 18 hours. So that is the reason what we do is we focus on IRM and TPRM only. Yeah. Then what we have now, we'll talk about ServiceNow suite solution, like where GRC comes into picture. Okay. So if you look at the governance and the security solution of ServiceNow, so first step is your security operations. Second is your GRC. Third is your audit management. So right now, what we are learning is the second line of defense. If you look at here, we will be learning the second line of defense. Why I'm calling it a second line of defense is because the first line of defense for any cyber risk or cyber operation is your security incident and vulnerabilities response. Okay, what are your security incidents and vulnerability response? wherein you manage your vulnerabilities, right? If there's a software and there's an update available for that software. So you may remember there was an incident which happened related to CrowdStrike, and Microsoft was using CrowdStrike as one of its third parties, and they were providing a lot of solutions to Microsoft. As soon as that CrowdStrike went off, somewhere around 50 to 60% of Microsoft businesses were impacted, right? Why was it impacted? Because they were not doing a proper vulnerability response. Yeah. So as soon as they missed that approach, what they had to do is they had to mitigate that risk. And how did they mitigate that risk? They mitigated it through a risk management of ServiceNow. So that is the reason we call it this GRC solution as a second line of defense. But your SecOps solution will always be your first line of defense. Will not be covering security operations because that is a different module in itself. So yeah, that is the first line of defense. And similarly, your GRC solution becomes the second line of defense. And then your third line of defense becomes your audit management. In here, what you do is you take about all the practices that you have followed for making a control compliant or mitigating your risk. So that is what like a overall solution of ServiceNow is, and we are learning about the second line of defense in within the ServiceNow framework. Okay. Now let's talk about like how GRC works. Okay. So you may know about UCF repository. What is UCF repository? It's a repository where you have different types of authority documents, citations, different types of framework which provide you guidelines on how you can mitigate a risk or how you can make controls compliant. So all that is stored in your UCF repository. Give a minute, guys. I'll just yeah. Now this unified compliance framework, basically like the full form of UFC is the Unified Compliance Framework. It has a lot of authority documents. What are authority documents? Your rules and regulations. Yeah. Then it gives you objectives. Authority documents are basically objectives. Let's suppose one of the authority documents says that every company should follow multi-factor authentication. Yeah. Whenever you log in within your systems or your laptops, what you do is you first enter your password and then you use Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, Okta, all these are like different SSO tools. So what they do is authority document states that your organization should use multi-factor authentication. Yeah. Now, how will I know that okay, there's an authority document and there's a statement which is given, but then how can I how will I implement it? Right. Okay, this is the objective. I have an objective of using MFA. Now I want to know how can I achieve it? Yeah. So you can achieve it through the citations. Citations are nothing but your breakdown of your authority document. Whatever is written in your authority document, the citation breaks it down. What the citation will say? Okay, if the authority document says that this should be your password policy, it should include capital letters, small letters, and all those things. So basically, what the authority document will say that every organization should follow a set password policy. What citations will do? Citations will tell you what should the password should be, whether it should be a 15 character, whether your password should be alphanumeric, whether your password should include special characters or not, what should be the maximum length of your password, what should be the minimum length of your password. All of these things will be covered in your citations. So, authority documents are your statements and objectives. Citations is nothing but how you will achieve those aims and objectives. Okay. Now, what people usually do is, with the help of these authority documents and citations, what they do is they create their policies. Okay. These are your references of drafting your internal policies, right? Let's suppose if I want to draft a policy, I need to take a reference from somewhere, right? So those references, they come from your authority documents and citations. Then with the help of your authority documents and citations, what you do is you define your internal policies. Okay. And then similarly, with the help of these citations, what you do is you define your control objectives or policy statements. Okay. You have a policy within your organization which says that you have to mandatorily work from office for 2 days. That becomes your objective. Now, objective is stored within a policy, right? Now, how will you follow that? What are the different rules and regulations, or how will you break down that policy? With the help of policy statements or control objectives. Okay. Now, what will the control objectives say for that policy? Are people coming to offices or not? I have designated HR department to visit office on these 2 days, IT department to visit office on Thursdays and Fridays. So all these things are covered in your control objectives or policy statements. So similarly, how the relationship is there for authority document and citation, the same relationship is there for policy and policy statements, which is basically policy is your objective. I want to do this. Okay. I want to do this. And policy statements are your ways, like how you can achieve it. So these are different ways how you can achieve the required objectives of the policy. Now, this policy statement is also called as control objectives. You see here. So your client or your internal organization, they can call it as policy statements. But from now onwards, what we'll do is we'll refer to as control objectives, because this is a new term that we use, and these are the terms that we use within ServiceNow as well. So that is the reason I've made a note here as well. What what is a generic term that we use, and what are the different what it is called within ServiceNow. So all your policy statements are called as the control objectives. And then we talk about all these things: profile, profile types, profile class. All of these things we'll cover in depth when we talk about entity framework. For now, you just need to remember, like, okay, profile class is called as entity class, profile type is called as entity type, and profile is called as entity. What is an entity? Entity is anyone who works in your organization. All your users are your entities, your departments are your entities, your assets are your entities, your configuration items, your entities, the laptop that you work for your organization is an entity. So anything which is subjected to risk becomes your entities. All of these things we'll cover when we talk about entity scoping. So you don't have to worry about like what all of these things mean. So it's fine. Yeah, we'll cover all of these things in the coming sessions as well. So you don't need to worry about all of these things. And we'll touch base on all these things with respect to ServiceNow as well, like how all these things look within ServiceNow as well. So yeah, this is just an introductory session. So that is the reason I'm covering it at a very high level. I've already talked about what UCF is. Just let's look at some of the finer details of the UCF. So UCF is the world's largest library database of interconnected compliance documents. What are compliance documents? These are your authority documents, citations, policies, control objectives. All those things are contained within this UCF repository. You can see here there are 1,000 mapped authority documents, somewhere around 100,000 plus individual mandates, 10,000 plus common controls. All of these things like are available within your UCF repository, and this is the link of that from where you can access this UCF repository. And there's an integration of ServiceNow with UCF repository. So that what does that integration does is it fetches all the required documents, different frameworks which are present in UCF directly to ServiceNow. So we have that as well. Now we have already talked about what an authority document is. So authority document manage a process and citations are created within them to manage the process point. So like one of the example of an authority document is this ISO 27001:2013, which talks about your information technology security techniques, like what are the different requirements for setting up an information technology and how you can set up your controls and policies for information technology. So this is just an example of that authority document. Then again, what are citations? Usually, authority documents, citation, and control objectives are downloaded from third-party provider. However, citations can also be created manually from an authority document. The active option in a citation indicates whether the citation is active or inactive. Authority document holds multiple citations. Now, this is a very important statement. Okay, let's suppose we have a authority document which says you to have a multi-factor authentication option enabled in your organization. Now, what will happen is different organization, what they do is they'll use different tools. Someone may use Microsoft Authenticator, some may use Google Authenticator, some may also use Okta Verify. Okta is also a SSO tool which is used for MFA as well. So these citations, the authority document only talks about MFA. It's a very broader definition. But what these citations will do, they will provide rules and regulation for all these different tools. Let's suppose if you're using Microsoft Authenticator, so citations will provide how you can enable Microsoft Authenticator and how you should use it. Citation, let's suppose if your organization is inclined towards Google Authenticator. So what citation will do is they will say, okay, this is how you can implement Google Authenticator. Similarly, if you're using Okta, so they'll say like, okay, these are the different methods that you should use for implementing Okta solution. We also have an example here as well. Person working for the organization shall be aware of how they contribute to the information security management system effectiveness and the benefits of the information security performance. A very simple example, and we have already covered citations in their depth. So that is what citations is. It's just a breakdown of your authority document. Yeah. So this is what we cover in our demo session. Any questions on this theme, like overall process? If you have any question related to the course or how will we go? So I am done with the presentation. So now I'll just take up questions. Any question, team, on this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Gabriel.
just,
Okay.
yes, I wanted to ask you again. You said that business continuity
Yeah.
management, yeah, is
Yeah.
optional.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you say it's optional, does it mean we can decide to do it or not to do it? Or you might decide to teach it or not to teach it?
No, no. No. So as I made it very clear that we'll only cover four modules, which is your policy and compliance, risk
Hmm.
management, third-party
Hmm.
risk management, and your audit management. So these are the four modules that will cover. The optional part in here is that, like, if you may want to proceed with that, so it's completely your call. I won't be teaching it. I'll be only teaching the four mandatory trainings which are like outlisted in the curriculum.
You talked about privacy. Is privacy in there?
No, no, no. Privacy is also not in there. Privacy is a different module and it's a very small module. So, yeah, we only talk about four modules, which is your policy and compliance, risk assessment,
Mhm.
uh, third party, and your audit management. Because these are the four biggest modules which are there, and these become your building block of learning like different other modules. I
Okay.
hope I'm clear. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, thank you.
yeah. Yeah, Gabriel, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the overview you've provided. And I'll just take my question from the last um, comment from Azul as regards business continuity and incident response. I know I
Yeah.
had the conversation on the WhatsApp chat before the meeting that would that particular module be addressed, and I was actually told that if we can make arrangement for that. So I think for me it is essential that that particular module is touched because of the organizations that I'm considering working with require that particular.
So,
So the
so
second
you're talking
question,
about vulnerability response.
no, business continuity and incident response.
Incident response comes under security SecOps umbrella. So we
Okay,
don't
so
uh, we don't
yeah,
teach
the
that
business
module within
continuity
GRC.
model, particularly the business continuity model, that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
concerned about. So that's the one I'm asking um for that particular model to be discussed, at least pointers to
I
how to do that.
I
So
am
that's the
interested.
first one.
I'm
Then
interested.
Yeah, please go ahead, Gabriel. First, let's Gabriel finish the question. Yeah.
secondly, I want to ask under which of the models would we be looking at the creation of dashboards to include risk rating, the risk heat map, control
Yeah.
gaps, and compliance conclusion? Would we be or
Yeah.
would we be having that in any of the models?
So all of these things will come with your policy and compliance risk assessment. At every
Okay.
step, you'll also look at reports and dashboards, like how different reports and dashboards are available. So it is not like something we teach separately. It will be included in your
Right. Yeah,
modules.
that's why I asked under which of the models would it be taken care of? It to be under risk assessment, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
There's a
cool.
heat map and all those things. So all of these things, as we complete our modules, we talk about reports and dashboards there as well. So yeah,
Okay. Okay, so for vulnerability management, like you said, it will be under security operations, so we'll not be
yeah.
looking at that particular part. Okay,
No,
that
we'll not be. Because
okay,
you see, we have to define what we're really learning within these 17 minutes, 17 hours.
17 hours. I
Vulnerability
understand.
response, yeah. Vulnerability response is a 13-hour module within ServiceNow. It's a separate thing, right? Similarly, security incident response is a 17-hour module within ServiceNow. So we cannot like
Okay,
take all of these things within the GRC training, right? And two, I'll not set any false expectations here. It's that when we talk about ServiceNow GRC and we take the introductory course, we talk only about four modules, which is your policy and compliance, advanced risk assessment, third-party risk management, and your audit management. So there's no false expectations here, or I will not try to sell you the course saying that, okay, we
yeah,
take all of these things. We
I
only take
understand.
these four modules.
I
So
understand.
I'm pretty clear with that for now. Yeah.
Okay,
Any
so
concerns over it or questions?
yeah, so concerning the UCF repository and the authority
Hmm.
documents, um,
Yeah.
I know my organization particularly has compliance regulations for up to about 4 to 5 authority documents, EPA, GDPR,
Yeah.
iTrust, ISO.
Hmm.
Would we be looking at control mapping and how to
Yeah.
actually,
Yes.
or be looking at control mapping and how to bring each of the compliance to each and every one of those
Correct.
authority documents separately when we are
Yeah.
submitting
Yeah.
reports on each of them?
Yeah.
Would we be looking at that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We'll be looking at all of these things through policy and like how controls are getting mapped to policy, how control objectives are getting mapped to policy. So all of these things we cover. Since this was a introductory session, so I didn't cover it. Like I wanted to keep it light, but from
Okay.
tomorrow onwards, we'll cover all of these things within ServiceNow as well. Yeah.
Okay, I
And
think okay, I have one
we take care. So
question. Yes.
just to add to your point, we also talk about profile creation. Like if you are aware about like there are different entities or profiles that you create, right? And then you
Hmm.
assess against these entities or profiles as well, right? So
Okay.
we do all of that. What are the different types of entities and all these things? So we cover that within our ServiceNow module.
Okay. So my last question would be I know there is the creation of automatically creating a
Yeah,
CMDB in ServiceNow itself. So would
yeah.
we be looking at integrating CMDBs from other sources outside ServiceNow?
No,
Would
no,
we be how to integrate
no,
those CMDB into ServiceNow? That's the first one.
no.
And would we be looking at integrating SIM tools and EDR solutions into ServiceNow? Would we be looking into that?
No. So Gabriel, to set the expectations right, thing is integration in itself is a platform activity, right? So establishing an integration is not possible within 17 hours. It requires much more in-depth details. So what we do is within what we have predefined data within the CMDB modules, and we just talk about how you can use these CMDB entries to create your profiles and assess against those entities.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
so because those are some of the needs that I need to get
yeah.
hands on how to
So,
integrate
so,
with
so
CMDB and
Gabriel, like, can I understand what kind of a profile you have? Do you have a developer profile or a functional profile?
so
Consult what? Hmm.
So just like I mentioned, I'm a GRC analyst, and the main reason why I'm taking this course and the
Hmm.
outcome that I'm looking at achieving outside the things you mentioned is to be able to help my organization integrate from manual processes and bringing all of their GRC functions into ServiceNow IRM. That's what I'm trying to do at
Yeah,
this time. So I should
yeah,
be
yeah.
able
So,
to
mhm.
my organization's processes, GRC processes and systems, and integrate it into ServiceNow IRM successfully. That is
Okay,
my goal for
okay.
taking the cloud course.
So, Gabriel, the correct word would be not integration, it would be migrating. Okay, because
Migrating, yeah,
service now,
that's
yeah,
what yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, migration, like you cannot have your GRC solution on two platforms. It should be only
Yeah.
based on a single platform, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what I try to train in here is that, okay, let's suppose if you want to migrate from any of the solution that you have right now, how you can
Mm-hmm.
migrate it, we don't talk about that. We talk about how you can manage your processes, right? There may be a
Yeah.
set process that your organization will be following for that specific tool. What we do is we say, okay, whatever you're doing is fine, but then ServiceNow's GRC solution is better, and you will see how it is better, how it is like only on one single instance you can manage your controls, your control mappings, your compliance scores, your risk scores, all of these things. Like there's an automated logic present, there's no manual work involved. So we talk about all of those things with respect to ServiceNow GRC, and that is what the training is focused on. It is focused on the GRC process within your ServiceNow.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
good. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
yeah. So the correct word would not be integration, because the integration, if you talk about, it takes about, like, it is not a 1 day process or a 2 day process. It, like, even if I give you a training,
Mm-hmm.
it will just we will just digress from GRC and we'll only talk about integration, because integration involves a lot of technicalities, right? You may be aware
The
about that.
integration just got stuck in my head while I was mentioning
Yeah,
the integration from all the sources.
yeah, got your point. Yeah. So, team, any other questions, or we can wrap up the session as well, because we are
That'll be all.
already six.
That's all of it.
Yeah.
That's all of the
So if you
questions
have
that I.
a, mhm. So what you can do is, Gabriel and Azu, what you can do is you can provide your feedback to the training group, like did you like the introductory session and all of these things, and then you can discuss the course related stuff with them. If there's anything like GRC process and all those things, you'll discuss it with me. Yeah.
Okay. Would there be any other facilitator of the course, or you are just the only person taking the course?
No, no, no. So I'll be only taking the course, and facilities, you'll have to talk with the training group, like what are the different facilities that they'll do. I'm like, my main concern is teaching you service now and complete the course. That is what my
Yeah, yeah. What I'm
two
asking
biggest.
is, are you the only person taking the course, or there are other
Yeah, yeah,
teachers over?
yes.
Yeah.
No, no.
Okay.
I'm the only one who takes care of the entire GRC module. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other question, team? Or we are good to wrap up this demo session?
I think for me, I'm good. So
Yeah.
is it Monday to Friday? Do you do weekends?
Uh, so it completely depends upon your availability and my availability. So let's suppose if we all agree to have a course on Monday or Friday, Saturday or Sunday, so we take that, but it completely depends upon the availability of the students and my availability as well. But general consensus is that we take classes from Monday to Friday. Let's suppose if I want to take a class on Saturday or Sunday, I inform it prior to the training group, and then the training group communicates it with you.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe we should just be doing weekdays for
Yeah.
yeah,
now.
yeah,
We'll see.
Friday. Yeah. Monday to Friday, strictly peace. Weekends
Mm,
are
yeah,
stopped out already.
yeah. That is what
mm,
I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. It completely
mm.
depends on the student's convenience. Okay, if you say no, then we don't do it. If you say yes, then only we do it. Then only we proceed. It's completely flexible and it's completely depends upon the availability of students.
Would we be
Oh,
having a hands-on experience, kind of like
Yeah.
a project,
Yes.
or you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we could say this is what we'll be able to achieve while doing the HKR training course. Can we be
Yeah.
having
So
a hands-on experience on maybe one or two things that we can showcase
yeah.
after the
Yeah.
training?
So during every lecture, what I ensure is that I do hands-on training as well, but then it completely depends upon you as well, right? It completely depends upon the students as well to do the training on their own as well, right? If they want to, whatever I teach within the ServiceNow instances. Okay. What I do is I log into ServiceNow, I take a free instance, I do all the like what you say demos and hands-on there, and then it becomes your responsibility as well to replicate those same hands-on experience that I've given to you. So it's more of
Okay.
a hands-on approach rather than like just going through PPTs and all those things. Okay.
since it's a tool, definitely it has to be hands-on. It's a tool we're talking about.
Yeah.
We can't just
Yeah.
do PowerPoint presentations. No,
Correct.
it doesn't.
Correct. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll talk
Sounds
about
good.
like how you can get a ServiceNow instance and then how you can have your hands-on experience there as well. So we'll talk about how you'll get that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you same time tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Same
Gabriel,
time,
Gabriel, are
7:30.
you CST?
Yeah, it's Central Time. So it's currently 10
Central
10
Time.
p.m. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock right here.
Okay, so it's 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. that we should be joining, right?
Yeah, we join 9
7:30
p.m.
a.m.
CST.
IST.
Except you want us. I don't know if it's convenient to take it 1 hour back, but I think I don't know,
If we
whichever way.
if if we can take a 1 hour back, it's fine for me. We can
Yeah,
do
it's
eight if they can, you know. If we can do
yeah.
8 or 9, so if they can push it back 1 hour behind, because that's actually what I expected. I checked on them for 8 p.m., but they weren't forthcoming, so I almost slept off until they called me. Trainer, is it possible for us to do it 1 hour backward?
Burna backward as in like 8 p.m. CST you're talking about.
No, here we did 9 to 10. I don't know what your time is there.
Yeah, it's
Is
7:30. It started at 7:30 a.m.
you
Yeah.
started at 7:30. So can
Yeah,
you start at
Mm.
6:30?
No, it will be way too early for me,
yeah.
Azu.
I thought as much.
Why is early for you? It's late for us.
Yeah. So 7:30 is something like I can manage. 7:30 to 8:30 or sometimes like I extend 10 or 15 minutes. But
That's
that is
7:30. So that 7:30 is 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
7:30 a.m. is
That's
9
9
o'clock.
p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, my chat is telling me it's 8 o'clock. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
No,
it's
no,
9
no.
p.m.
7:30. Yeah, 7:30 a.m. IST is your 9 p.m. CST.
Now,
Okay. Okay, that's okay. If you cannot handle it, Gabriel, we can go with him at 9 o'clock.
it's fine
Yeah,
for me. 9 to 10 p.m. every night. That's fine for me. That's fine. I don't have a
yeah,
problem with
yeah.
it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Trainer, so what's the name again?
Sorry.
What is the name?
My name is Rohan.
Rohan. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You know all our names. So Rohan,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yes.
I think the introduction sounds good. And we look forward
Yeah,
to having a very, very fruitful lectures
yeah, yeah.
and learning. Okay.
Sure. Yes, yes.
Thank
Okay.
All
you
right.
for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. Bye now.
Okay. Good night. Okay. Good
Good.
night, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye. Oh,